Welcome to On the Frontline, the Military Rec Show. From military installations across the globe to the communities that support our nation's heroes, military recreation plays a vital role in strengthening the lives of service members and their families. In this episode, we're highlighting inspiring programs happening around the world, exploring the impact of quality of life initiatives, and sitting down with one of the most respected leaders in military recreation. Join host John Prue as he welcomes former Navy Deputy Director for Quality of Life, Jerry Hieb, for a conversation about leadership, career growth, and the lasting impact recreation professionals make behind the scenes of military life. This is On the Frontline, powered by the DPRS Media Network. Let's dive in.
Hello, it is 13:30 on Tuesday, 7 April 2026, and you are on the front line. My name is John Prue, as the host of this weekly podcast focused on armed forces or military recreation. We talk to professionals in the industry who are in some way or have been made a difference in the quality of life of our military and their families. Now, out there, you might be a morale, welfare, and recreation or MWR professional who directly supports quality of life for our military and families each and every day. Maybe you are or have been in the military and a user of MWR programs and services at some point, and we thank you for your service. Perhaps you're from a business or an organization which directly support or wants to support our armed forces recreation professionals around the globe. You just might be a public parks and recreation professional curious about this thing called military rec and what it's all about. Or perhaps you don't fit into any of those categories and you just tuned in. Either way, welcome to On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show. All right, we are past Easter into April and amazing. We're going to talk about some programs that are happening around the world here in just a little bit, but some amazing stuff happening out there. And I think we're all glad to get past the winter and get into spring here. All right, we are part of an amazing media network here called Daily Parks and Rec Show, or DPRS Media, which exists to honor the parks and recreation community, reflecting on the stories, highlighting the careers, and celebrating the pros who are doing essential work in our communities, and that includes our military communities. First of all, shout out to Jovi, our producer today. She's pulling up graphics, doing the transitions, trying to keep us together and in check, and that can be a chore. So, Jovi, in advance, thank you very much for what you're doing. I also want to thank our founder of DPRS Media, Craig LeBlanc, and the many podcast shows he's hosting, but also behind, which is really impacting the parks and recreation industry. And really want to thank him for allowing us to have this weekly podcast focused solely on military recreation and the great work being done out there. All right, today's sponsor, again, is Outdoor Link. I would like to thank Outdoor Link, who's been one of the earliest supporters of DPRS Media. If you want to turn on your entire city on and off with a swipe of a finger on an app, this is what Outdoor Link does. Outdoor Link builds smart cities, connecting park lights, splash pads, fountains, scoreboards, bathroom door locks, or anything powered by electricity into a simple app on your phone, tablet, or desktop that can be controlled really from any location 24/7, 365 days a year. If you want to learn more about Outdoor Link, tune in to the Smart Parks Forward Show with Dave Ramirez on the second and fourth Mondays at 1:30 Eastern on the DPRS network. So we're going to see a little spot on Outdoor Link. We're also going to see a short spot on JDP Services Management Consulting, which is near and dear to me. And then we'll be back and we'll really get into the show itself. So, Jovi, go ahead and play the spots.
JDP Services Management Consulting, supporting parks and recreation and the essential service they provide. Communities benefit greatly from having dedicated advocates who champion the value of play in open spaces. Such advocacy ensures that recreational areas are prioritized and managed in ways that enhance the overall quality of life for everyone. We are dedicated to fortifying public park and recreation agencies and other related organizations by taking a practical, engaged approach to consulting and training, addressing immediate needs while equipping clients with lasting insight and tools to strengthen their organizations for long-term success. JDP Services, Management Consulting, meeting needs and exceeding expectations.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
All right, we are back. And as usual, before we get to our guest today, I'm super excited. Friend, old boss, can't wait to have this conversation with him. But before we get him on the screen and talking, we're going to do what we usually do, and that's looking at programs from around the world. And we've got quite a few today. So, Jovi, why don't you go ahead and pull that up now? Okay, so it is Month of the Military Child, and lots of cool things happening. And so, again, part of the Armed Forces Recreation Network. They have some social media channels, so lots of things happening from around the world that get posted on this thing. So I certainly can keep up to date, and everyone that is a part of those networks. We're going to talk about how you can be a part of the network, but lots of cool things close to 150 or more, especially busy time with programming. I think we had over 160 posts in the last 30 days or reposts on these channels. So anyways, just want to highlight a few of the cool programs that are happening out there, focused around Easter, Month of the Military Child, obviously. Lots of programs out there. This one, first of all, is from NSA Mid-South in Millington, Tennessee, just outside of Memphis. They had a Month of the Military Child proclamation. Happens at a lot of different bases, but what I thought was very cool is they had partners. They had people from the city, from the local school district, from the park and recreation department, all sign off on this proclamation. So they really got their community involved with what is, typically kind of a DoD recognition, but we've reached out well beyond the base here at Mid-South, and this is what I think we all should be doing from that standpoint. So very cool. CEOs signing off, and all the partners signed off on this proclamation, and that is cool because our military kids, honestly, are all over the place. They're not just attached to Navy housing or Army housing, military housing. They live in communities around the country, and time to recognize them in the month of April. All right. So we're going to move to this. Obviously, month of the military child, but we have a lot of, and we'll go through some of these quickly. They're egg hunts, Easter brunch, breakfast, Easter egg extravaganzas that are happening. This one from MWR Gaeta in Italy, kind of a detachment that's run by, I think, the Naples folks for the Navy MWR. I think that's the host command that supports them. But Gaeta, Italy, they had some fun this past weekend. Let's see who else. All right, Naval Base San Diego, their 2026 egg hunt. And again, these are just a sampling of some of the really cool pictures that got posted online. But again, shout out to some of these bases here. We have another one, Iokuni, Japan, from the Marine Corps, MCCS, who had ended up with weather, had to move their egg hunt and Easter festivities for the families and kids indoors this year. So good job to them. And then Fort Rucker had an amazing amount of people out there at their event this year as well, and they had vendors and almost turned it into a carnival after the egg hunt itself. So good stuff happening at Fort Rucker. Okay, kind of changing gears a little bit. This caught my attention. It was a boss trip. Single soldiers going out, and boss does a lot of things, a lot of goodness. But they did a kind of trip there to near Fort Polk and went to a World War II museum. And again, they had some really cool pictures in there, and really good turnout for this trip. And hey, they got a little history as well, so that's a good thing. Talk about alternative ways to spend your free time. That's what MWR does, right? Okay, this will impress, I think, my guest. This, believe it or not, he spent some time at Great Lakes, and this is Astro Night at Naval Station Great Lakes, and yes, this is the Porticall catering facility, and they turned it into basically a roller rink and a lot of fun. So yeah, really interesting, and we all know what the Porticall was once back, and it's used for multi-functions in here, but it was a pretty heavy-duty catering facility at one time, but they had fun with this special event. So Astro Night at Naval Station Great Lakes. And then rising country star Tucker Wetmore was at Guam recently and spent some time on the bases there. Anderson, I think he was on Guam Naval Base as well, but came to that region and entertained the folks in Guam through Navy Entertainment and partners. It was a big deal, and I'm sure they were very appreciative of the extra entertainment and talent coming in there. If you know country, I think you probably know who Tucker Wetmore is, and he's going to be big time, no doubt. Okay, couple other. It's just a busy month in general. A couple other cool things. There was this past weekend. There was showing kind of the flyers and marketing side of things. The egg hunt, aquatics underwater egg hunt at Damnick, uh, which great program that they have there, especially from the aquatic side. So saw a lot of them the last 5 years in my last job. Fort Rucker with the Mileage Club, which is rolling out this month and support. You also have the Kids Ball, which happened this past weekend. That was from New London, Subbase New London, another base I'm pretty familiar with. And then once again from Misawa, the ODR program, the Outdoor Rec program, they've got a month of military child, and they have a bunch of different programs being highlighted from there. So, between Easter and rolling into a month of military child, just really busy times for all of those folks out there around the world doing good things for military and families. Talked about this Armed Forces Recreation Network. Again, if you want to see their social media channels, you can see Facebook in the middle, and towards the right you can see the LinkedIn. We have close to 1,000 people that are tied to that Facebook, so a lot of posts or reposts, like I said, over 150 the past 30 days, so you constantly can keep tabs on what's going on around the world. And our LinkedIn is growing as well. I think we have over 250 members, and more posts going in there. That's a little more business like. We highlight bigger programs in that one, but sometimes questions come up, or management theories, various things get posted into that area. All you have to do is really ask. If you're kind of in the business, just ask to belong, and you can be on those and see those come up in your feeds, which is really cool. And then on the left is the AFRN monthly meeting. If you want to sign up through NRPA, we have one tomorrow that's going on, and the leadership team is doing great things. Matter of fact, I'm going to go and highlight what's going to be done tomorrow. They have an aquatics roundtable that is going off tomorrow for their meeting. Again, you can register through NRPA and attend that. They do record them, and they're available after the fact, even if you can't make it at their meeting for tomorrow. So that is it. Jovi, you can take the slides down today. All right, let's bring up our guest. Happy to have him on here. All right, I've been trying to get him on. Jerry Hieb. How you doing, Jerry?
Pretty good, John. How are you? Good to be with you today.
Yeah, Jerry is the former Deputy Director for Quality of Life for Commander Navy Installations Command, or CNIC. Been retired for a few years, but a good friend, my old boss. We spent some time at Naval Station Great Lakes. Jerry's going to talk about his career, but it's so good to have you here. But before we get into the real conversation, what'd you think about that championship game last night in the NC2A basketball tournament?
Well, didn't really have a rooting interest. My bracket was destroyed after the round of 64. So my wife, being a Purdue grad, jumped on the Purdue bandwagon, and well, they met a tough Arizona team, which being an Arizona State grad, there was no way I was going to root for the Wildcats. So was a little disappointed with that outcome, but based on UConn and Michigan, was actually hoping for a little bit better game. It was neither team shot the ball well, but they certainly play a very different brand of basketball than I ever played. Pretty physical game last night, but congratulations to Michigan.
It was one, yeah. I'm like that. It was hard to find a team you want to root for. I'm really not a big fan of UConn at all. And in the Big Ten, you know who I like. And then, okay, I have a couple friends that like Michigan, so I'm like, okay, it's Big Ten. I don't like UConn. I'll root for Michigan, but it was like haphazard.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get into it. But I was telling a friend I could not. It was basket brawl.
Yeah.
The whole Final Four. I mean, they just let them play, and I like refs letting them play. But it got to a point where it was just like it was so physical. It was a little hard to watch, and obviously I think the scoring or lack thereof last night was a result of that. So, anyways. Jerry, good to have you on here. Like I said, you were at the top level. Matter of fact, you were N9 for a period of time, SES position. You saw things from the installation ground up all the way to the highest level, at least within Navy quality of life. So, for those that aren't familiar, to walk us through how you got in this thing called recreation and how you got all the way to DC and head up Navy quality of life.
Well, as I look back and, as you get to retirement and retire, you kind of do a little bit of reflecting. And I guess I never thought about it, but my interest in Parks and Rec really started as a kid. We were fortunate to live within walking distance of a great city park in California. And hats off to the Park and Rec professionals in Concord, California. So that was my first introduction. And, 50, 55 years ago, moms and dads didn't mind you going to the park. You told them, hey, we're going to the park. And there was no fear. It was, you were safe in the park. And we would spend all day in the park, whether it was playing baseball, basketball. There was a nice community rec center. And I was thinking about it as we were kind of preparing for this. And I think I had one of the first food trucks in California, maybe,
Oh, tell me
that
more. Tell me more.
that we created. We had it, as most kids did, the old red radio flyer wagon. And we would make lemonade, and we took our mobile lemonade stand over to the tennis courts. And in the mornings, there was a lot of senior citizens and various folks that were playing tennis. And I don't know if it was our lemonade was so good or the seniors were just so nice to my brother and I that they bought our lemonade. And
Food and beverage on wheels. If you
yeah,
still had that wagon, you could probably get it in the Smithsonian,
yeah,
being the first food truck out
yep,
there.
yeah. So
That's
that was
awesome.
really kind of I'll say initial influence on maybe what I wanted to do in life. And as I got a little bit older, really got interested in the facility side of Parks and Rec, ball fields, gyms, rec centers. And I thought at one time I wanted to design those and do that work. But then I found out that that meant you had to be an architect and you needed to do some math and some engineering. And well, I was not cut out to be an engineer or an architect. So I looked for
Hey,
other avenues and found out that there was this whole programming side and the management side. And that really started to get my interest and where I wanted to go in life.
nice. So
Yeah.
where'd you go to college? How did you decide a college and a career
So,
path?
so at the time, I graduated high school in 1980. So looking around, and back then in California, you could go to community college for free. All you had to pay for was your books. So I ended up going to community college for 2 years and got all the prereqs and those
Yeah,
100 and 200 level courses
good
knocked
way to
out
do
for
it.
free. Yep. And then Arizona State at the time had a fairly good Parks and Rec programming. Back then, it was called Leisure Studies. And first, I had to kind of convince my mom and dad that, yeah, this is what I want to do. And luckily, they had been involved with the city of Concord somewhat. My dad was served on the planning commission, so he had some idea. But it was like, Parks and Rec, you got to be kidding me. How are you going to make a living? So luckily, they supported me, and I actually had an uncle living in Phoenix at the time as well. So it was kind of, there was some family connection, plus the good program at ASU. So got in and spent 2 great years at ASU and finished up there and went to work for the city of Phoenix initially, doing some summer programming, and we got into a little bit of therapeutic recreation for those populations. And my
Was that
experience,
was was that your internship or was that a real job after graduation?
No, that was my first real job, but funny you bring up the internship, which was part of the requirement to finish at ASU. Um, I did my internship in Concord with the Parks and Rec department that I mentioned earlier, and lo and behold, one of my supervisors in my internship had been my preschool teacher. So here I had her preschool, and now she's finishing me off in college. And then one other interesting story about my internship, and it just shows you never know in this business who you may run into. But at the time in high school, I could be a little bit of a hothead and played basketball. And lo and behold, another one of my supervisors for my internship had also been a high school basketball ref. And I'll never forget, Ed Heinrich is the guy's name. He actually teed me up a couple times, and here now I'm doing part of my internship with him. So luckily he didn't tee me up for the internship, and thought I did a good enough job to get a passing grade anyway.
Well, at least we found a ref that calls fouls, because last night we didn't see anybody doing
Not too
that.
many, yeah. So yeah, you just never know in this business who
Yeah.
you're going to run into throughout.
Good lesson learned. Good
Yep,
lesson
yep,
learned. Yeah,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So yeah,
All right.
back to City of Phoenix. Was doing some summer programming, whether it be at some of the schools or the city pools, and then we had a Saturday morning program that was probably one of the most difficult yet rewarding things I had done with the City of Phoenix, and it was a special needs population in the homes that cared for the kids. They would bring them to the park, and we would have various activities for them. And the program only lasted for 3 hours. But after those 3 hours, it was just exhausted from interacting with them and doing the programming with them. But for those that chose the therapeutic rec track, God bless them all. That was super rewarding, but boy, it was exhausting as well. But you always came away knowing you've made a little bit of a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's so important. I think everybody has that moment, no matter what population you're serving. I think that's what keep people in recreation. That you know you're making a difference. You know you're helping them make memories, or supporting people, or improving quality of life, and that's what keeps us all going in this
Yeah,
profession, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then moved over, started doing adult sports with the city, and that was a good experience. And when I was going through school, I thought I was going to be a city parks and rec guy for my entire career, and honestly did not know anything really about military recreation going to college. It wasn't really even talked about. The focus at ASU was, municipal parks and rec, therapeutic. We had the nonprofit track, Dr. Robert Ashcraft, and what he's done with the nonprofits has been extraordinary. He was getting that program off the ground when I was there, and then therapeutic, and then they were given Arizona, there was a little bit of an emphasis on resort recreation, and
Commercial.
yeah, commercial. So the military wasn't even talked about really, and one thing led to another, and I had met my future wife, and she at the time she went to ASU and then transferred. Finished up, we stayed in contact, and one thing led to another, and it came down to, okay, whoever finds the better job first, the other one needs to move. So she found the better job first in Illinois, so I had to start looking for jobs in Illinois, interviewed with various park districts, and was always got the thank you very much, you did a great job, but we made a different selection. And then there was just a little blurb in the Chicago Tribune that I had caught. I was looking at the Tribune, going to the library and whatnot, trying to get that paper to read it since I was still living in Arizona. And just it was only probably a 4-line ad for they were looking for a recreation coordinator for Naval Hospital Great Lakes. I didn't even know where Great Lakes was. So I looked it up on the map and that's only about 15 minutes from where Susie lives.
Yeah.
So very fortunate, interviewed with them, and February of 1987, went through those gates for the first time. And I won't necessarily say the rest is history, but that
Yeah.
was really my start with the Navy. And honestly, have no regrets for leaving the municipal sector. The Navy was extremely good to me, very, very rewarding. And as you know, John, we did some tremendous things while we
Yeah.
were at Great Lakes.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I finished my internship in fall of '86. I graduated. I had a job right before Christmas. You came probably what, in that springtime or shortly after the first of the year in '87?
Yeah, February.
Okay. So it was two different organizations. There was
Right.
Naval Station or Naval Training Center and the MWR, or they called it Recreational Services at the time, and we basically had the whole base. But your position was heading up this MWR for a specific command on base, the Navy Hospital,
Right.
and you supported that. Can you just talk about that? Because I had no idea, one, that even really existed. Um, and I didn't know who you are because you weren't really in that organization and we didn't intertwine, or certainly not at my level. So,
No.
so
Yeah, so back when we started the Navy, so now we have CNIC that does all base stuff, shore
yeah,
installation management. Well, back then there was those individual claimants. So you had Land Fleet, Pac Fleet, etc. So BUMED at the time had their own MWR Rec Services fund. So that piece at the hospital was the host command, but over there at the time was the Navy's only corps school. So all the corpsmen went through Great Lakes. There was a big dental command that was over there as well. So it was really all the medical and dental folks that were supporting the recruits at Great Lakes, and then obviously the big hospital at Great Lakes as well. So yeah, we were separate. And then I think it was that was 87. So it was around 1990, I think it was, that there was talks of merger. And BUMED at the time was that really a core function of the medical command, and thinking about shedding certain functions. So about 91, the merger was finally executed, and I didn't know what was going to happen to me. So I started to apply for other jobs, and luckily again, was not fortunate enough to get any of them, because we don't need to relive some of the history of
yeah,
Great Lakes, but
yeah,
one thing led to another, and some people were let go, and it all worked out in the end, that those folks were let go, and then those of us that were kind of left through competitive process, but were selected and formed the new leadership team that brought Great Lakes back to life.
yeah, yeah. It was a window of opportunity for those that were there, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Is taking advantage of those windows of opportunity, which we were both lucky to have at that time frame. So, don't want to fast forward too far through your career, but you were a region was created called Navy Region Midwest, and naturally that made it easy having a big, large base like Great Lakes be right there as kind of the hub of the region, and you kind of dual had it there where you were MWR director, you were the region MWR director slash N9 as it was coming, and how did that all work, and how'd you get to headquarters after that?
So given that, while the region Midwest was big geographically,
Mm-hmm.
we really
Yeah.
only had 3 bases:
Yeah.
Great Lakes, Crane, and then ultimately Mid-South,
And so, yeah.
we talked about earlier, came into the region. So it allowed me, one, to give attention to Crane and Mid-South, but it really allowed for the emphasis of Great Lakes and the importance of Great Lakes. And we kind of fought almost our entire time that while there's greatness on the coast, that they're the war fighters, they deploy. Great Lakes doesn't necessarily deploy, but Great Lakes is the start of a sailor's career.
Mm-hmm.
And it allowed me, through the great things that, you and the rec side were doing and others, to really tell Great Lakes story and the importance that Great Lakes had in the development of sailors and their familiarity with MWR, and how could we best influence their quality of life as they went, through their careers. So I think being at the region level gave me access to headquarters folks, and was able to then talk to them directly rather than having to go through a claimant and, through 14 different channels, and kind of the story get watered down, if you will. And I think that's really when some of the realization that, oh yeah, Great Lakes is just as important as maybe the Naval Station Norfolk, a Naval Base San Diego, Japan, whatever it may be, and really
Yeah.
help solidify Great Lakes' importance in the Navy quality of life arena.
Yeah, no doubt. We benefited from your relationships at headquarters, even when you went to headquarters, and I fleeted up to MWR director. I know we benefited from having that relationship, and because the story had been told, I didn't have to really tell the story. They knew the importance of Great Lakes and being the quarterdeck of the Navy, and really that first view from a sailor's standpoint of what they're going to see for quality of life programs. Because we all know their recruiters aren't telling them about that. They're telling them about lots of things, but they're not telling them that there's a thing called MWR and all the other wonderful, N9 quality of life programs that are out there. They have to find it, and we've got 4 years to make sure that happens so that the good ones stay, and you're not constantly recycling folks after 4 years, especially after all that training and support for the military. So we're going to come back. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think part of it gets back to kind of your intro, highlighting the programs that sometimes, we just, oh, it's Easter or it's this, or, we don't give a lot of thought to the continuity of programming. And the continuity of programming throughout the year almost tells the story. And we were fortunate, I was fortunate, I had you and some other great programmers that made the story easy to tell. And I guess that would be something I would share with kind of the younger professional, that don't think you're just doing an Easter program or you're just doing a 4th of July program. There's a reason we do those, and what's the story that can be built off all of those programs throughout the year, that begins to set the reputation of the installation, your reputation as an individual, and it all kind of builds on itself. And it's just not this one-off, oh, we do it because it's the 4th of July.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's an awesome point, and being able to really tell the story, not only the one, but hey, this quarter, this year, what did you do? And then you go back and reflect some of those data points and metrics and everything, and it's wow, we did a lot. And it's really important that you share that with your team, and so everybody kind of understands the bigger picture. I don't care if you're a rec aide or who you are, you need to kind of understand what we're doing to support. So that's good stuff. We're gonna take a quick break, but we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk a little bit more about how those early jobs shaped your career, and then we're going to talk about the career ladder and key things that can help you out. So, Jerry, you hold tight, and Jovi, take us away. We'll be right back.
Welcome to DPRS Media Network, the voice of parks and recreation professionals, where leadership grows, facilities thrive, and communities connect. Leadership Series: Insights from the leaders shaping our industry. Facility maintenance: the backbone of safe and sustainable spaces. Young Professionals Network: empowering the next generation of parks and rec leaders. The Rec Room: real conversations, real stories, real impact. Youth Sports Mastery: elevating the game for athletes and communities. Smart Parks Forward: innovation driving the future of recreation. On the Frontline: honoring those who serve our communities every day. Athletes Commute: the journey behind the performance. The Aquatics Life: everything aquatics, safety, staffing, sustainability. Safe Spaces and Green Spaces: a show exploring the connection between nature and mental well-being. And we don't just tell the stories, we show up where it happens. From local gatherings to national parks and recreation conferences, DPRS Media Network is on the ground, capturing conversations, highlighting innovation, and amplifying the voices shaping our industry's future. DPRS Media Network: connecting parks, empowering people, inspiring communities. It started with a shared purpose, a vision to bring people together, to inspire, to learn, and to lead. And at CPRS Conference 2026, that vision came to life. From every conversation to every connection made, this wasn't just an event, it was a community in motion. Ideas were challenged, perspectives were expanded, and leaders stepped forward, ready to shape the future of parks and recreation. At DPRS Media Network, we had the privilege of capturing it all: the passion, the innovation, the stories that deserve to be seen and heard. Because these moments don't just stay here, they ripple outward, into communities, into programs, into lives. To the organizers, the speakers, the partners, and every single attendee, thank you for showing up, for sharing your voice, and for being part of something bigger than all of us. This is more than a conference. This is a movement. And DPRS Media Network will continue to tell your story every step of the way. We'll see you at the next one.
All right, we are back. Jerry, we're talking about your career path, but we also kind of want to help some in that mid-level, mid-career range kind of figure things out. So how did those early jobs for you, whether it was right out of college in City of Phoenix to working for the hospital, even your early jobs with at NTC Great Lakes, how did that kind of shape your career?
So the early jobs, the ones right out of college, City of Phoenix, and even somewhat at the hospital, formed the programming foundation. But along with the programming, and more so once I got to the Navy than with the city, started to learn about, oh, you mean I need to worry about money? I need to worry about people. And when I look back on my college career, I wish I would have gotten more exposed to the money and people components of the business than I did. So I guess my advice to young professionals is definitely you need the programming foundation. That's kind of where we all start. But as you move up, I hate to say it, you get farther and farther away from the programming aspect, which a lot of us got into the business for that. But as you move up, you get removed from the programming aspect, and it does become about money and people and strategy, and how can you use the money or shape the money to tell that programming story. How can you identify the right people to execute the strategy that's been developed? So really begin to develop a knowledge. And again, whether you're in the municipal setting, learn how that municipality does budget, does money. How can you influence that to further the park and rec world? And then in the military, well, we've got the non-appropriated funds. You definitely need to know. You don't need to be an accountant, but you certainly need to know, how the non-appropriated side works. And also, you need to find somebody who fully understands that appropriated fund cycle. When I first started, they were talking about the Palm cycle and this cycle and all these acronyms that honestly had my head spinning in my first few years with the Navy. And luckily, the Navy had great training programs. So, that would be another thing for our young professionals, that any training opportunities you can get, whether it be through NRPA or your service, take advantage of them. And I think NRPA does a great job with some more broad spectrum stuff, whereas the military side, lean on them for those specific skills you need to be successful, regardless of the service.
And that I will say we do a really good job for those that are outside of the DoD world or DOW, whatever we're calling ourselves these days. We do a good job at internal training, at least within the N9 world, of whether it's CNIC University, which they've developed recently, but we had various elements of that throughout time as technology has changed. The Army's always had a great academy. All the services do a really good job. If you are an outsider looking at a career at Military Rec, shameless plug, we do a really good job of some of that technical training and even soft skills training as well for our world, and that's something that you don't realize, it's just a training requirement. But now looking back and reflecting, those were really critical trainings, and not to mention the networking that we had an opportunity to work with people at different bases and across the enterprise. And that ends up being relationship building. And now all of a sudden you got a pipeline with people you can piggyback and toss ideas and find out best practices. It's really cool stuff and so important. What are your thoughts? And I know you went ahead and got your MBA, but what are your thoughts on grad school is a part of advancing career? Important, not important, situational? What are your thoughts?
Probably situational, depending where you see yourself going. And again, would I have become the deputy, served as the director with or without my MBA? Don't know. But it certainly added to my foundation. It exposed me to other elements, other philosophies to maybe think about, or okay, how does that finance class or that HR class that I took in my MBA, how's that relate? And did it give me a different idea? So it gives you some exposure, which I think is always good. Whether it leads to a direct job or not, I think in today's world, the more things you can be exposed to and kind of put them in the toolkit, if you will, or in your portfolio, the more things that you're exposed to and can look back on, lean on, is going to be important.
Yeah.
Now, did they come out and ask me in any of those interviews, hey, Jerry, do you have an MBA? No. Did it maybe give me a half a point or a point on some grading scale through the initial um, review process that, oh, these 10 people have master's degrees, these don't, so we're going to interview these 10? Possible. So I think it's really up to each individual where they see themselves and how do they think they can use the degree and information you get from it. I was fortunate in my program. I had been working for 4 or 5 years. So I think it helped. I certainly would not advocate going right to grad school after you get your
Yeah.
bachelor's. Definitely get into the workforce and kind of sort your career out before you just dive right into a master's degree. But my program, and I think you kind of went through a similar one, we were all working people. And most of the instructors, professors, were also working folks. So it wasn't strictly just theory-based instruction. You had a whole host of folks coming from various professions. And that also helped expose it. Oh, okay, that's the way they do it. Well, can I pick and choose maybe a little bit of how they do it and bring it into MWR?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree 100%. It's not needed right out of college, not in our profession. I think get your feet wet, get into it, and who knows, you may have an organization that will pay for it directly, or at least help subsidize the costs. So if nothing else,
Yeah.
it relates a lot more, and especially when you're working. I got so much more out of my graduate degree than I did my undergrad, even though that pointed me in the right direction.
Yeah.
Did you have anybody you could lean on, a mentor, whether it was formal or informal, or somebody you leaned on along the way that kind of helped you through? Because that's another critical aspect, that you find people who can help you formally or informally with your career. Did you have anybody like that?
I would say all of my mentors, they probably don't even know they were my mentors. I'll say I probably didn't have any formal mentor-mentee relationships, if you will.
Yeah.
But there were a number of people that I certainly looked up to and tried to watch what they did, how they did, and learn from them. Quite honestly, John, you were one that I looked to, learned some things with the way you did programming, the way you negotiated things. So it doesn't, to me, always need to be somebody that's senior to you. It can be anybody in your organization that is there somebody that's doing something in a certain way that makes them successful that you can kind of watch, listen, learn. How do they act? How do they go about their business? So it was again, all of them were pretty much informal for me. And I could name names if you want, but
Uh,
maybe best they just stay
yeah.
anonymous. But it's just
Yeah.
quietly watching and observing and how do they get things done and how did they get to where they did and so yeah, it was much more informal than a formal relationship I had with anybody.
Yeah, kind of the same with me. I think I just looked, and you see things that you like or gravitate to, or see that they're effective and you want to mimic them. And uh, you also come across lots of different people, whether they were civilian or military, and leadership styles. And you said, no, not doing that. Um, so yeah, you can take the good with the bad, and be observant. But yeah, if you can, find a formal mentor, that it's always a good thing. But it doesn't have to be formal; it can
Yeah,
be informal.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Eh,
So, any other just tidbits of information or advice you could give somebody at that mid-career level right now?
I think we've touched on it. We've used the words network, mentor, mentee, etc. But one thing that I did that I think helped me immensely, and we talked about a little bit in the first segment, was that exposure to the headquarters folks and others. And so with that, if there are working groups, if there's anything where somebody's asking for volunteers, raise your hand.
Yep.
Raise your hand, because that probably helped me more than anything throughout my career, was getting involved with the headquarters folks, the region folks, the claimant folks back in the day, but getting your name out there. And then when you're in that working group, obviously you have to perform. You got to show them you have a skill set that is valuable to the organization. But that first move is just raising your hand and saying, pick me. I'm more than willing. And it doesn't matter if it's, only going to be a month and you're over and done. You only meet twice and both meetings are via Teams or Zoom or whatever it may be. You're still in that meeting and your name's still there. And then the next time, maybe it's a 6 month, maybe it's a year. The one, and there was a lot of them, but the one that lasted for years, and I think you kind of picked up some of it as I moved on, was the whole idea of establishing the Navy standards and then accreditation. That ended up, I worked with that group for years as we developed the standards, did the first round of accreditations, and then handed it off to others. And I believe that program's still in existence. It's changed over the years, but that was one where it lasted and made tremendous friendships out of those, not only working, but personal as well. So it's just having the courage to say yes that first time.
Yeah, absolutely. I concur 100%. So, craziest moment in your career that you can share on this podcast? Professional moment. Craziest professional moment.
There was certainly a lot of crazy moments and highlights. But as I look back, it happened probably in my first year or two at the hospital. I got the dreaded phone call in the middle of the night. And it was base security. It's like, huh? I'm half asleep, and this is base security.
I'm not on the clock.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
The building's on fire.
Yeah.
So the facility had a gym and pool and fitness area, and one of the saunas caught on fire and destroyed probably a good third of the building or so. Structurally, we were still fine. But I look back on that and it's kind of crazy. I get up, I'm going, and get there, and the fire's still going. Working with the fire department, they did their thing, and went home. Came back the next morning to really see what the damage was, and I thought, you know what? This is going to be my first facility project. So the fire, and no, I didn't set it, didn't trip the sauna.
Night ops.
But that turned into my first true project at Great Lakes. So and also got me exposed to our friends at Public Works, and it was an all appropriated fund project to rebuild it. So the thrill of that and the challenges. But so it was crazy in the sense that, again, you hear about the phone calls in the middle of the night. You never think you're going to get one. And then lo and behold, I'm a young professional. I was probably 26, 27 at the time, maybe. And didn't think, that would be happening.
I remember when that happened, and I think this is probably where I got a little more familiar with, there's a whole MWR program on the hospital. It burned down. Yeah. I real quick story on this. I was going to work one day and my wife's watching Channel 7 News in Chicago or whatever. And this old military drill hall on a military base, that's all she tells me, is burning down, and it's on TV, and they got cut shot, fire department, things flaming. It's an old drill hall where I worked in building 2600 at Great Lakes. Well, she had the base wrong. It was actually down in Glenview before they closed that down. Talk about being nervous and
Nervous.
and dressing really quickly to get out the door. Thought my building was burning down.
Yeah.
Hey, want to wrap this up today and talk a little bit about. Obviously, we've got Operation Epic Fury going on. Hopefully, this is wrapping up sooner rather than later. It's been a major um, major push, and for what we do in the quality of life business, we I'm sure we have counselors out on the big decks, and our fun and fit bosses. They've evacuated Bahrain from all the civilians in there, so we've seen this and kind of stayed away with this on the show. I'm sure we'll have some people on and talk about this after the fact, but it goes to show you that when we support war fighters, but we don't think about it. But when they're war fighting, it is kind of important what we do. And I guess what I'm getting to is, there's quite a few folks out on deployment who are actively involved in this operation, and and we need to support them, but we also need to support their families who are at home and worried and concerned. So, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you had to do and oversee and support as that either the deputy or the N9 for our war fighters and their families, especially on deployments.
Yeah, so at the headquarters level, our main issue was trying to get resources to the regions, who then could get it to the installation and deliver those valuable services. So it was really us advocating on behalf of the regions and the installations up the chain, one first to CNIC, to the 3-star, and then up to OpNav and to the money folks, to get any additional resources that we may need to support any issues or special needs that may have arisen, or look internally and how could the MWR folks at headquarters or the Fleet and Family support folks, whoever it may be, did they have the freedom to reallocate any money? And obviously on the MWR side, a little bit easier to do with the non-appropriated funds. But it wasn't necessarily headquarters dictating and directing. It was more headquarters supporting where the needs really were, rather than telling them, "Hey, you need to do this." It was, "Hey, what can we do to help?" And I know sometimes I'm from headquarters. I'm here to help. Well, truly, we were trying to help, whether it's during an epic fury or a good portion of my time as the deputy and as the N9 was actually during COVID,
Yeah.
and the regions and installations were continuously looking for that guidance that, hey, how are we going to execute childcare? How are we going to execute fitness programs? And rather than each individual base or region trying to figure out on their own, hey, here's kind of an umbrella guide, if you will, on how to execute those programs. And you kind of pick and choose, if you will, or have that umbrella meet your local needs. But here's kind of the parameters.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And I think in general, it's times like this, whether it's COVID, Operation Epic Fury. We spent 8 years in a war in the early 2000s, into the mid, till 2010. Katrina, 9/11. You realize that you matter,
Right.
and we come to support, and we'll do whatever we take. And I think that's what I see for my fellow MWR, but it really anybody within the Navy. We're all part of the team, and when stuff hits the fan, we're at our best,
Yeah.
and we're there.
Absolutely.
there to support that warfighter and family. So
Yeah, we may not have the honor of wearing the uniform, but never in my 36 years did I ever doubt that the civilians in our organization would not show up when called upon.
yeah, yeah. You just do it. You don't even think about it. It just happens. You're part of the team. So, Jerry, we could talk for hours, but nobody else wants to tune in. So we might need to do a Jerry Hieb Part 2
There you go.
episode somewhere down
I'm
the
in.
line. But thank you so much. And that's it for On the Front Line today. Thanks to Jerry and his amazing story and career, a true legend in Navy MWR. We'll be back next week, same time, same place for another great episode. So, on behalf of all of us at DPRS Media and On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show, I'm John Prue, and we are out here.
This year, we didn't just attend an event. We became part of something bigger. IPRA 2026 brought together leaders, innovators, and community builders, all united by one mission: to strengthen parks, recreation, and the people they serve. For DPRS Media Network, it was an honor to join IPRA 2026 and take part in meaningful, real-time conversations, capturing stories and amplifying voices that matter. To IPRA, thank you for creating a space where collaboration thrives and the future of parks and recreation is shaped together. We extend our deepest gratitude to Amelia and all our partners who made these live interviews possible. IPRA 2026 wasn't just an event, it was a reminder that when communities connect and stories are shared, impact follows. From all of us at DPRS Media Network, thank you, IPRA. Thank you, partners and sponsors. We're honored to stand with you and excited for what's next. Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.